everyone, and welcome back to the Messy Middle podcast / if you're watching this on YouTube. I'm really excited about today's episode / video because this is something entirely new I've wanted to do for a long time, but if you follow me on any platform, you know that I'm never home. I'm traveling all the time, so I haven't had the time to sit down with our coaches and dive into more of these like TLM coaching chat type things, especially right now because our whole team is training for HYROX. Corey's here, Coach Corey, who is part of the masters behind our HYROX programming at TLM. He's done like 7 of these now, I think. I don't know. Between 6, 7.
I think it's 6, but I'll count real fast.
I thought you just did one, but you went and cheered at Vegas. You didn't compete at Vegas.
I did compete. I competed hard.
So that's 7. That's 7 for you.
Right.
That's 7.
Right, yeah.
And then Trevor will be hopping on. He coaches in person at Corey's gym, who we kind of steal coaches from. But Trevor, Danny, Carly, and I are all racing at DC in a week and a half as of today, recording this. I'm doing my first open solo. Danny and Carly are doing women's open doubles, and Trevor is doing men's open. Corey is here just for coaching and moral support because we have all been kind of pilot testing our HYROX V2 program and beta testing it and working out the tweaks of it, of what we need to do for our own training. Carly and Danny have been running it for like now 4 months. I just started with it. And then Trevor and Corey together wrote our V1 HYROX programming. So we have lots of insight here today because us 3 are new to this, but the rest of the team has been doing these things. So we want to get some coaching insight from Corey and Trevor, as well as just talk about an honest feel about how we're feeling. I know Danny, Carly, and I have been texting each other or Corey a lot about how we're all feeling, and I'm racing with Corey in New York and Carly next month at Atlanta, so we're all kind of talking strategy and how we're feeling, and we kind of want to bring that insight here to you guys. So first of all, if you enjoy this stuff, you like the coaches chats, let me know either in the comments on YouTube or just, like, subscribe, engage, all those things. Send me a DM on Instagram telling me if you like this. It just helps me create the content that you guys are looking for. So, all right, guys, let's dive in. So first, maybe let's have like a little bit of a chit chat about how we're all feeling, Carly, Danny, and me going into DC, our training, and then we can use Corey for our strategist on how to approach all the things, because I think we've all been sending Corey our training data so much that he's probably sick of us at this point in time.
Not even a little bit.
Corey loves strategy.
So
I don't know how Corey has so much patience.
You guys are all nerdy about it to the same degree I am. Because normally when clients ask me about these things, I send them back long answers. And then they're like, oh, okay, I'm good, man. I don't care this much. But you guys actually do, so it's great.
I know. We're like, here's my exact running split, and where's my heart rate spiked in the station that causes me the most fatigue. Too much cheese. So Carly and Danny, how about we start with you two? Women's open doubles. First HYROX together, and Carly just got done with the stomach flu. So
I will say the last 2 months of our training between the two of us, I'm like, oh boy, we're gonna come in like a freight train just hoping to hit something. No, we're gonna do great. But poor Carly and I had like 2 weeks of just like not training. We just didn't get. I don't even think Corey was probably like, they're doing so good. They haven't texted us in like 2 weeks. And it was actually dying. Yeah.
That is how
Carly's bucket hugging for 2 of those days.
Yeah. I don't know, Carly, how do you feel?
I feel like, and I told you guys this, I felt like I was hitting such a stride in training. I was like nailing it, like hitting every session and feeling really, really strong. And then, you're looking at how many weeks you have until race day, and you're like, that's perfect. I have so much time to prepare, and I'm going to hit this peak week. And then it's just like a landslide. And, like I was texting you guys thinking like, what am I going to do? I'm going to be sick during peak week. But trying to lean into like overall training, like Alyssa said, we've been kind of testing this program since mid-October, I think is when we started kind of formulating this plan, Corey. And so obviously it hasn't been perfect week to week. But for the most part, we've gotten a lot of training done. And so I think being this close to race day and having a hiccup is definitely a little unsettling, but overall, I feel like we've dialed it in, and the programming is, obviously I'm biased because I'm part of the Lyss Method, but it's so good. Like I genuinely feel very prepared going into the first one for sure.
And it's funny too, I think, thinking about it, like how many times do we get client messages of clients panicking in this exact same situation, like all of the time? Like I'm just thinking now, hearing you say this, I'm like, this could be a TLM client sliding into the app's messages being like, hey, I raced my half marathon, my HYROX, my marathon, my ultra, my trail race, my 5K, whatever it is, in like 2 weeks, and I just had the stomach flu. Like, oh my God, what do I do with my taper type thing? But it's so funny because it's like, even being coaches, you know what you would say to a client in the situation, but then when you're in the situation, you're like, no, but this is different.
Literally, I think there's text messages. There's text messages between Carly and I where I respond like I'm in TLM messages, and I'm like, hey, Carly, I'm so glad that you reached out to us about this. But just so you know, you're not going to lose all your strength. Da, 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 da. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll
Coaches,
be like,
they're just like us.
Yeah, for real. For real.
Oh my gosh.
Many
I know.
times
Coaches
it's
need
us
coaching.
panicking.
Well,
Yeah.
I texted Corey last week because Noah's kind of been MIA on me between Noah got
getting
married.
married.
Guys, Noah got married. Him and Val got married. How dare they? And they're on their honeymoon. And I was like texting Corey the other day. It's like, Corey, I'm sorry to bother you, but Noah hasn't coached me for 2 weeks, and I need to talk to somebody about this right now, immediately.
Yeah.
So that's good. Do you guys have, I guess we'll talk strategy in a minute, but we were kind of just texting about this now. Like, do you guys have like a little bit of a plan? I feel like I've just been accepted into the tech circle of Danny and Carly. I have a rule as like a CEO boss person where like, do not text me business things, but like if it's like friend team stuff, then I'm fine with it. Like me and Corey chat stupid fitness stuff all the time, and
It's
Carly
great.
and Carly
Alyssa
and Danny
I are really close.
besties. All we do is talk about fitness and business strategy, which is fine. But like, I have this like, keep it in Slack if it's a to-do list item, but everything else can be in text, and that's fine.
You're welcome to join. We've talked about. I can't even.
But,
Yeah, it's like I can't say it on a podcast, but we talked about cereal yesterday, and that was great.
Well, anyway, I'm thinking you mean the murder podcast, not the cereal. 'Cause I ate
Oh
a half
no, we're talking about cereal.
Like actual cereal.
I ate a half a box of cereal yesterday, guys, and I was in a really bad mood all day. I was just such a bitch, so cranky, tired. I had enough sleep, enough food. I ate half a box of cereal. I feel like I'm freaking shooting to the moon today. So I think that was the correction factor. That was my self-coaching. I was like, you need to do a zone 2 run, not a high intensity cardio session, and take yourself outside, get some sun, and eat a half a box of cereal. So anyway, you two, women open doubles. Have you guys talked about like comparing your training data? Because you kind of have been training side by side with this, like how you feel like you're going to hash and divvy this out. I know me and Corey already have thinking about our strategy for New York, and that changes every week based off my running data.
Yeah.
Versus everything else. But for you guys, how are you feeling about like kind of divvying this up together? Like, how do you feel about going into that?
I think good. I mean, good. I think it's very dependent. So when we first started training, Carly didn't have a ski erg. So I was like, well, son of a gun, I am 5'10", and I will be doing that ski erg like solo with Carly.
You're
just trying to
5'10",
pull.
so you're doing it anyway.
Yeah, I am. And let me tell you, when I did my mock HYROX, yeah, that's the words I want, on Sunday, I was like, I am going to fucking bury this ski erg. I'm sorry, I shouldn't cuss on your podcast, but I was like, I am so strong. And I went like a sub 2, and I was like, I don't normally hit this, so I was stoked. And then I got to the sled, and that was scary for a second. But I would say our game plan has kind of adjusted as the training goes through. So like now I have had the opportunity to spend more time on the sled, so I am mentally ready to be like, I need to be prepared to push and pull that heavy sled as much as I can. I'm kind of nervous
Carly,
about.
do you have a sled?
No.
Okay,
We don't have a
okay,
sled.
okay. Just
But her legs are so strong that I'm not concerned about it.
Well,
at
Carly's
all.
been box squatting like a house and a half.
I know. She's like, you're so strong. You're so capable. I'm like, Carly, I'm like 5 feet taller than you, and I sit down to the same height box, and you're
You can
doing
just-
like 50 pounds more than me.
You can just high five the wall balls and do all the skiing.
Yeah. Literally every time I practice wall balls, I'm like, I think that's 9 feet. Like, like it's just a little toss for me. But
No.
we've definitely gone back and forth and switching it up, and like now that she has an erg, I think the erg work will definitely be more split evenly. And then I am not for being as tall as I am, I can lay down and cover a lot of ground for the burpees, but man, I should be able to jump a lot farther than I actually can, and she's way better at capacity-wise with the burpees. So it's constantly us texting each other back and forth, finishing a workout and going, I think you should probably do this. Or no, I think maybe I should probably do this. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had conversations too about like, okay, so we're pretty equivalent in terms of running. And so we've had conversations of who starts certain events. What are you most comfortable with? What are you strongest in coming off of the run? For instance, if you know that burpees might be your weakness, like let me finish the burpees before we go into the run so that you have a breather coming off of them. And then we've also talked a lot with Corey about kind of what's the best strategy in terms of breaking it up so that we're not switching when we're so fatigued and then we're taking even longer to recover. So he's had a ton of good insight in terms of, you know, instead of trying to do X amount of burpees, cut it down to 4 or 5 and then switch, because those are really quick transitions. So that's been really helpful. But definitely it has changed so much from week to week, because now I do feel more comfortable on the ski erg, but Danny is 5 feet taller than me, so she can hold faster paces on both the rower and the skier than I can.
Luckily, the ski you can switch really quick. The row is the thing that takes that transition time. So I was going to say, Corey, as our great master,
Yes,
coaching us all, what is your Corey Davis Corvalin Training of Watkinsville, Georgia insight on their strategy?
Yeah, so we've already obviously talked about it offline a bunch. So when you talk about that you're really confident on the ski, my answer to that is wonderful. Use that and then slow way down. Because what I would rather see you do is say like, hey, I'm so fit and tall that I can keep it down under a 2. But rather than like gassing yourself out on the first event, instead of doing that, go at like 80% intensity for you, whatever that is, and throttle back so you feel better on that next run, the sled push, the sled pull, and the burpees. Because basically when you get to the race, those first 4 events are so hard. The ski is really taxing and jacks your heart rate up really quickly. The sled push is really hard and it's not that long, so you're going to be back out to running very quickly. The sled pull is really hard and not that long. You're going to be back out to running. And the burpees are the worst thing in the world. And so you have all 4 events back to back to back where like, hey, you're capable of a 155 pace. Awesome. Don't do that. Do a 205. In terms of the handoff strategy, I think there's 2 that I really like, which is either go, whichever one of you is going to start. Carly does 150, then Danny does 150. Carly does 200, Danny does 200, Carly does 150, Danny does 150. That gets you the 1,000 meters. You're never going longer than 200 meters, which is going to be roughly 45 seconds, 50 seconds for you two, which is like not that long. And you don't lose any time, like Alyssa was saying, on the handoff. So that's fine. The other strategy I like, if one of you feels a little bit more confident on it, but also confident on the run, is you can alternate 150 at a time, and then whoever started has an extra 100 meters at the end, which one partner ends up doing 450 and the other partner ends up doing 550, which is like not a big deal. Like definitively, that's how Alyssa and I should do the ski when we get there, because similar to y'all, I'm taller and heavier, and it's the first event, so like I don't think I'll gas myself out too much by skiing 100 meters farther than Alyssa does. Like I should be okay.
Yeah.
Me and my 230 pace coming in.
I'm with you.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, that'll be absolutely fine.
Reaching
gotta
for the
pick a
stars,
partner,
Carly.
pick a tall
Reaching for
partner.
the me and Carly in Atlanta. We're gonna be having to we'll be in the ski erg while everyone's running because we'll be still trying to reach the freaking handhelds up there. Oh my gosh.
They do make you, just like as a rule thing, you can't hand the handles off to the other partner for some reason.
They make you. This is something we need to cover. Maybe after we talk about my strategy, is there's all these rules that I don't know, and I'm gonna go and get I'm gonna get put on that. What's that CrossFit dude who crawls out everyone on
Andrew Hiller.
Andrew Hiller's gonna put me on his freaking YouTube. I'll get to depth on wall balls, but I'm gonna like miss a burpee or something.
This is not an insult to Andrew Hiller, because I also fear him. But
we're nobodies, but
I don't think he knows those rules. Like, he knows when you're doing a bad wall ball because it's incredibly obvious to everybody but the judges at every HYROX.
And CrossFit event.
Yeah, fair. But the super weird rules are definitely something that Andrew would not know about.
Okay, so I'm safe.
Yeah, I think you're
Okay,
safe on that.
okay,
Because
okay.
they're
There are
just
super
random
weird
rules
ones.
like,
Yeah,
you
listen them
can't
out,
put
Corey. We need to
pulling
know.
on the rower until your feet are strapped in. So you can't like strap a foot in, start pulling, and then like strap your other foot in.
Both
Okay.
feet must be in.
It's not an advantage. Like, really? There's
Okay.
rules about like you have to be standing on the platform when you ski. And it's like, yeah, that's where you stand. That's not an issue. But yeah, it's a super weird one. So when you are skiing and you transition, you have to actually like bring the handles back up and let the next person grab them and bring them down. So when we're skiing, I can't like an FYF, Alyssa, I can't like hand it off to you. You have to drop it back to the top to let the next person grab it.
Okay.
Which, if you're short, kind of blows.
Yeah, me and Carly we're gonna do
Tippy
split
toes.
we're doing 200 meters on that. 200, 200, 200, Carly. So isn't there something with the burpees too, with the way your hands have to be? Isn't there a weird rule? I see all
Yes.
these reels.
Yeah.
My algorithm's
Yeah.
giving me more HYROX
Yeah,
now.
so it's not that weird per se. It's just basically like wherever your feet land, that's where your hands go.
Okay.
So you land, and then you are supposed to put your hands down wherever your feet landed, i.e., you can't like fall forward. really
Oh,
far.
okay. That makes a lot more sense than what it seemed like.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it's worded kind of funny, and this is my own theory. I think it's because it's a German company. Like, it's a little bit confusing. So what they say is you need to put your hands down at your feet or no more than a foot's length. And I think what they mean is like your own foot distance, like the size of your foot is what they mean, not 12 inches a foot.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because it's a German system. Everything's in meters, like everything's metric. So it doesn't make any sense to me that everything would be metric except for this one thing, and that would be 12 inches. Like, I think they mean like go straight down.
So essentially, yeah, you do your broad jump, right?
Yep.
And then you basically just fall directly down into your burpee. Is
Yes, go
essentially
straight down. As opposed to like we've all done in a burpee where you like reach way forward.
Yeah.
They want you covering forward distance with your jump, not with your like burpee hand placement.
Okay.
But you technically do have a foot's length. So strategically, you should go exactly a foot forward every time.
I have
Strategically.
no idea where I put my hands during
That's pretty
burpees.
depressing to think that you're only gaining a foot each time.
Yeah.
I guess your jump, that's true.
Yeah,
the
so
jump.
that's what the rule is. So like all of your forward distance covered in a burpee, in the burpee broad jump, should be from the broad jump. It's not, hey, as I go down to this burpee, I'm gonna sprawl my hands forward. Because hypothetically, me and Danny could cover another 5.5 feet every burpee by just like falling forward from where our feet land.
Yeah.
You need to put your hands down and then stand back up and jump again.
So do you guys
And
know how
then-
you oh, go ahead, Corey, sorry.
Oh, you're good. And then just like on the stand up, it's just, hey, wherever your hands are on the burpee, that is where your feet can go forward to. You can't like step past your hands as you stand up from the burpee to then jump again. Does that all make
Now,
sense?
yeah, but now you transition between partners after the jump, right?
Correct.
Not after the burpee. See,
Correct.
those are the types of things like the transitions
Yes.
that kind of
So do a
can trip me
burpee,
up.
do a broad jump, land, and then your partner can start from there.
And then
They
switch.
basically just throw their hands down exactly where your feet are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where like the transition on the burpee broad jump takes 0 time, possibly like negative time. Like if I can guesstimate where Alyssa's going to land, I can be right there ready. And then the moment she lands, throw my hands down and go faster than she could have like gathered
Reset.
herself to go back down herself.
Do you now while we're on the topic of burpees,
Yeah.
broad jumps. Do you have any tips for this, for pacing this? Because I know this is a thing that a lot of people, I mean, I think I've gotten the question more than anything is how do I make burpees suck less? And I said, you do them more and they will always suck. It's kind of like the fitter you get, the harder you have to train kind of thing. Like burpees are still going to suck because you'll just be able to do them faster, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any expert insight?
Yeah, the
tips
only
on that?
solo race we have is yours and Trevor's solo race. And then after that, it's all doubles, right?
Yeah, for I think everyone on the team.
Yeah, so for solo, I would just say try it in workouts and figure out an appropriate pace that you can kind of keep steadily moving. And don't look up at how far it is. Because depending on the venue, a lot of times it's always 80 meters, but it might be 40 meters down, 40 meters back. And when you get 10, 15 meters in and you look up and you go, oh my God, that's so far away, and it's only halfway there, that can be really demoralizing. And so literally just like keep looking down until you get to the very end and you can actually like gauge, hey, do I have
This is
one
helpful
more
though
jump to
because
do?
people listening are doing solos too all
Yeah.
the time, and I think that's something that everyone, like I even did my mini mock HYROX last weekend, which was like somewhere between 50 to 80% of the work depending on what exercise I did. Totally fudged that math with that gym's turf, but I did feel that. I felt that sled, which granted it probably maybe felt harder because my sled pushes were like a quarter of what they should have been and sled pulls were because I was mixing them with those guys. But I felt, and I was running really close back to back. But I was like, oh yeah, I've been crushing burpees in training, but like those 3 runs really close to each other, I was like definitely like coming into them with a very high heart rate. Which I thought burpees would be my limiting factor with all of this, but it turns out they're maybe one of my strengths. We'll see. No one put bets on this. When the HYROX video comes out that Luke makes, and they're like, "Wow, Alyssa really typed up her burpee broad jumps," because I've been doing a lot of burpees to plates in the gym, so I haven't really actually done a lot of burpees in fluidity until I did that work, and they didn't feel too bad. I had ran pretty close to them back to back to back, but that's helpful. Because I know I've also heard the tips, and I'm interested in your opinion on this, Corey, of like treat it as a broad jump then a burpee, not a burpee then a broad jump. So like reset and pause at the bottom before, so you have enough energy to like get up and go right into a powerful jump so you can get more distance, rather than doing like a million burpees, but you're too gassed to like actually jump far. So what's your take on that?
Yes, I think it's a little bit based on like how you're built. So I really like, there's like 2 ways people do it, which is they either hop both feet up or they like come to one knee, step in, and then like basically step into their jump. I really like the latter, both because it's not quite as gassing as the jump up technique is.
So you can stand out of your burpee?
So I do the burpee, and then from the floor, I'm almost, if you think back to like sprint training, like a push-up start, I'm almost doing that. So like I do a little push-up, step one foot up to where my hands were, and as my other foot comes up, while I'm still low to the ground, I immediately am into my jump, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm going to need you to send me a video of this, because I have been like classic CrossFit burpeeing all of my burpees. Like down, hop up, then jump with all of my
So I don't
burpees
stand
in my
up all the way at any point, basically. So like, if Danny were to show up to our Atlanta race and like hold a like pole at like 5 feet, I'm 6 feet tall, and like were to hold a pole that I was like limboing under at 5 feet, I'd probably never cross over that. Like I would probably never hit my head on it because I'm down on the floor. I'm into like a little half stand position. Like if you think about somebody jumping, that like bottom loaded position, that's as tall as I ever get. And I'm just stepping with one of my back legs up into that position and then springing from there. And then as I land, like you're landing down in like a low crouch, I land with my hands basically already on the floor, and then I'm immediately back down. So like I'm never standing up during that event.
I don't know. I think you guys have turf. The way I've been training in my garage is I basically do a burpee to a plate, then have to turn around, burpee to plate, turn around. So it's a little bit.
Sense. But especially with a burpee to a plate, it makes more sense to like land on top of the box, like fully extended up there.
Yeah.
I'm almost more like a traditional broad jump where like technically at the midpoint my hips are extended all the way through because it's a jump and so you're getting that extension. But then I'm staying low the entire time.
Okay, I'm intrigued by this.
But
I've been doing it the same way as Corey does it, but I've been standing all the way up at the top. So now I have to try it where
I thought I had
haven't
it in my
been.
head with HYROX you had to have like a full hip extension, or is that something else?
The
You've made that up.
lunge.
The lunges?
The
Okay.
walking lunge
Listen, people are going to be like, Alyssa, you sell HYROX programs? I'm like, I'm doing it to learn, baby.
There's
I'm
so
into the
many
shit.
random. There's so many random rules.
There are a lot of rules, and they changed the rules like year over year.
Yeah, because now your feet, both of your feet have to be even when you leave in the jump, apparently, too, for the burpee.
Yeah.
Oh, they can't be staggered.
You can't have a staggered stance. They have to be even.
That's a dumb rule, but I actually like that rule because if your feet are staggered, it's really hard to tell where you're like jumping from and where your hands were. So it looks like you're stepping too far when you see somebody like step through and have a staggered stance.
Yeah.
It's definitively not an advantage to have a staggered stance, but it's really hard to tell if people are doing it properly, like at a glance, if they are staggered.
Yeah.
But so now with lunges, you have to stand all the way up at the top between each one?
Yeah, you need to lock out your hips at the top of the lunge. Not for any extended period of time, but if you've like been to enough like CrossFit workouts, you've seen somebody do walking lunges where they like never stand up and they're like
pulsing,
staying super low the whole time. I didn't get that in the frame. That's what I did. You've seen that before.
See it on YouTube, kids.
You need to, It's not an audio medium. You've seen people like not stand up all the way in the lunges. That's what they're trying to avoid. They need to just stand up all the way. But it's not like you need to like stand up there and hold it for 3 seconds and then demonstrate as you go to the next one. You can definitely like walk through them and step through them. You're fine. Just not staying low and cheating.
Perfect. Okay, so it sounds to me like your guys' plan is that Danny is maybe going to favor a little bit of the erg work, or you're going to even out the ski. I'm assuming Danny will probably take a longer stint on row, just because I'm assuming you're a better rower.
Go
6
figure.
inches of extra.
I was just going to say, I need like 6 to 8 more inches, and I would be golden.
Man, I no matter how hard I push and try, I swear to God I don't get better at row. But Corey's wife, Morgan, is like a really, really good rower, and I want to do a video at some point of Mo breaking down everything I'm doing wrong, because it's like I just can't get faster if I decrease stroke rate and increase power output, or increase stroke rate and decrease power output. If I do power output and stroke rate, like maybe I get like 30 seconds of optimal pacing.
Selfishly, let's do that after your race with Carly, but before your race with me.
Corey's trying to sabotage my race with you.
Well, and I don't know why, because we can't even compare it. It's girls club versus, and he's also, we were going to do doubles in Atlanta, but Corey was like, it looks better for business for you to do it with a woman first, girl power. He was literally,
he sabotaged me from the start.
He literally was like, we were planning on Atlanta, and he was like, no, you have to do it with a girl first. It looks better. And he was just,
brand.
It was better for the
girl
brand.
power. If you do it with a guy immediately, I did not want to partner with Alyssa that soon. I need more time to run.
But here's the thing is, I really don't think my work capacity and my running under fatigue is that good. But now, because Corey hypes me up like this, I feel so motivated to show up so fit for New York, not for literally performance reasons, just to not let Corey down for this expectation of me he has in his head. I'm like, this is like, my running's better than Corey, like in an all-out plain running situation. But, like, I just think that I guess we can pivot to my race and my strategy now since I'm yapping about myself. It's like, I don't know. I was doing pretty good with the running and a little bit of the compromised running stuff. I didn't do a ton of HYROX specific workouts, like, the first month or two after my 100-miler, because I did a 100-miler last year, and so I was recovering, big things. I just lowered my office chair. So we pretty much went right into, like, faster paced running, because that was my biggest discrepancy, me and Noah, because all I did was easy running last year. And even though I really can work on some of the event specific things, I still don't think for me that was gonna, HYROX is a running event and a running race, right? Like, when I say that, I get a kickback from a few people. They're like, no, you can't sleep on the events. And I'm like, well, yeah, obviously you still train those, but like, you're running a lot, right? And for me, that was
run, you're toast.
Yeah, like that's just
also
a lot
with your
of it.
background, like you're really good at event stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
I did
know-
CrossFit for
yeah.
years. I'm strong. Like,
Yeah.
so
And especially for you, you have a greater opportunity to make up time on the runs than the events.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially being a 5'1" superstar over
Yeah.
here. So that was
Carly,
like,
Danny, sorry.
go ahead. No, go
Do
ahead.
y'all
Corey.
have anything else on the events y'all want to talk? Do you want to go through event by event real fast of like
Oh, yeah,
the
we can
entire
pivot
double
back.
strategy that like I
Sure.
would recommend
Yeah.
versus what y'all think?
Sure.
Ski,
I'll start the
150,
ski.
200, 150, or if Danny feels really good about it, 150, 150 each until you get to 900, and then Danny does the last 100. Both of those work fine. The catch on all of this is just how do you feel doing that and then running. So
Fine.
like Danny being really good on the events doesn't help anything if she then gasses out and can't run the next one. So like Danny being good in an event isn't an advantage if she's then tired and can't run at the pace she would have. So like on any erg work or sled like heavy stuff that makes sense for Danny to push it on, you still have to pace it where you can run as fast as possible.
Do you
And
guys
so
know
I
what
kinda-
events for you're going to be the most gassed coming out of?
Burpees.
Yeah. And so that could be
The
like
burpees
a
are
really good
really rough.
trade-off. It's like, hey, I know I'm going to do more of these couple, and then I need a rescue on the burpees. So like, hey, Carly does 5, Danny does 5, and then make sure that Carly finishes it. Just like whatever
Yeah.
you have to do to like,
I feel great going into the run on any event except the burpees.
okay. So that would be if there's a spot where Carly can kind of rescue you to, it would be the burpees then.
Yeah. I think it'll be a lot of conversation on the run too of like,
For sure.
hey, how you feeling? Because
For sure.
Yeah, I think having flexibility going in and out, like being able to shift out of, even if we go in with like a pretty specific strategy, being able to shift at any given moment, being like, hey, I need you to start first. Like I need
Well, I think
a
that's where
minute
it's
to
good to
just kind
talk
of
through some
recover.
of this stuff beforehand. So you know, like, hey, here's plan A, and then when
Yeah.
you need to deviate from that, you know, kind of different backup plans. I would say on the burpees, split up 5 and 5.
yeah, that's
It's a
our
really
plan so
easy
far.
Split. You don't have to do that many rounds if you split at 5 and 5, and you can be really fast in a doubles race doing 5 and 5. Solo, Alyssa, you just need to like be ready that hey, I'm gonna get through these burpees, survive that next run, and then recover on the row. You two can also do that just to a lesser extent because you get to recover on every event some. Every event will have a period of time where you're just standing there resting.
Do you guys have an idea of what pace you're like able to maintain across all of your estimate kind of thing? I know we all did our own version of like kind of half-assed mini HYROX, minus Carly because she was hugging
Dying.
the bucket. she was doing ukes for time. Like because I know for me obviously like I felt like I fatigued and then picked it up. Like I felt like my pacing was a parabola. I only did
Yeah.
750 meters last week. I don't know how common that is. But I don't know if you guys have like an estimate kind of pace goal that you're going to aim for, like, 5 minute, 5.5 minute, 4 minute, whatever, 1K. Like, do you guys have like an estimate of that for the running?
I'm letting Carly pick the running pace.
I think, I know I'm terrible at kilometers and figuring out my
I know. I was
1K
like,
pace.
I need to look at my.
But I
You can pull up
know.
a calculator and translate it for y'all.
Okay,
You type it
so
into text now on iPhone, it just does it for you. Did you know that? Anyway, you don't have to do it that way. I'm just letting you know.
I'm fairly confident, between some of my tempo runs and a couple of some conditioning sessions where it's ended with like an 800-meter run. I've been able to kind of stay between like an 8:30 to 9-minute pace, which I'd like to see improve. But I think part of my strategy, I did a recent training session where it finished with burpees. I think it was 30 burpees or something, and then immediately into your 800-meter run. And basically the first minute of that run, I pulled way back on my pace purely to let my heart rate come down a little bit and just to catch my breath in my legs. Like I just needed to work my legs out. And then by the end of that run, I was running at like an 8:30 pace and felt really strong. So I feel like that's maybe part of the strategy is like coming off of, walking lunges, like anything that's going to like be harder on our legs, maybe starting at like a little bit of a conservative pace and then trying to pick up at the end. But what would a 9-minute 9-minute pace on a 1K be?
A 9-minute mile.
Yeah.
A 9-minute mile on a 1K is a 5:36.
I feel like that's pretty reasonable.
What's your like, not like today, but like a recent 5K for you, or like a 10K? Kind of, what's that range for you,
That
Carly?
wasn't in a zone 2.
That wasn't. See, that's the thing, is I'm coming from like exclusively zone 2 running.
I know all of Corey's prescriptions are at 5K pace.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
So our PE.
While I was doing my tempo run yesterday, I was like, don't know if this is my 5K pace. Really just going for it at this point. I was like, I should probably do a threshold run.
You guys are probably somewhere in that like 24 to 27 minute range.
That's what I'm
I would
thinking.
assume, just depending.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had
that
to guess,
can be a
it'd probably
big gap,
between,
but
like,
I'd say you're probably in that
yeah,
range.
I'd say like 8 to 8:30 pace for a 5K. Like
you-
if I was really pushing and if I was coming off fresh legs.
Have you done a threshold run at all recently, either of you?
I should do one.
You're telling me I'm just guesstimating my threshold pace, and I haven't been since November. And we think my threshold pace is like 8-minute mile, which would,
Yeah.
I think,
So I would
based
say
on my times. Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
Pacing wise, if you are a monster on the events and you're going to throttle back on them some, I think in doubles you could be pretty close to your 5K pace and survive. But that is assuming both that like I'm really good at the events and I'm not going to push them as hard. Like I think your 5K pace. Did y'all just see things?
Yeah.
It's a Mac thing.
Yeah,
Macs
my bad.
do it.
Yeah, my bad, y'all.
I think I
I
turned
feel
mine
like
off.
you have to do that, then that. I'm on a Dell, so it won't do it.
Sorry.
I think I
won't
turned
count
mine
anymore.
off. Go ahead, Corey.
I think if you are really good at the events and you're not planning on like maxing them out, like I'm not gonna spike my heart rate there. I'm gonna recover some. I think you could get close to your 5K pace for doubles and be okay. I think the other end of the spectrum would be like your 10K pace. So like I keep those numbers in mind when I think about like Alyssa and I teaming up of like, hey, here's my 5K PR, here's my 10K PR. I need to be in that range reasonably, and I think I'll be okay. So like,
Do you
that's
think
how I
in-
bounce around?
Do you think in terms of trying to, you know, obviously it's our first one, so there's going to be a lot of figuring out pacing. Like we have nothing to PR against. So, you know, we're purely learning this first one. But do you think you have more ability to get a better finishing time by pushing it harder in the run and then pulling back a little bit in the events? Like if we're strong in the events and we can kind of dial it back to like 85, 90% and then really, really push it in the run, is that the area where you can make up more time in terms of a finishing time?
I think so overall. And I think this is like broad advice for everybody listening, and then also you two specifically. The range on runs is going to be larger than the range on events. So like you two doing double wall balls and me and Alyssa doing doubles wall balls are going to finish within 20 seconds of each other, one way or the other. Like when Alyssa and I do the wall balls in New York, the balls are going to be constantly moving pretty much, because worst case scenario, I do 10 and then have a heart attack and Alyssa has to do 10.
I don't know. I don't speak so soon how long that 100 wall balls is going to take me a long time. That is my worst event, Corey. That is my worst event.
For solo, for sure. For solo, it can have a big
I get
range.
freaking like dizzy. I have to stop. Yeah. I get dizzy. Like 9 feet is so high. That's like 2 of me.
That's in solo for sure, but in doubles, it's not going to be a big difference.
It's not.
I'm gonna do 1, and then Corey will do 20. I'm gonna do 1.
I've done.
She's
super
gonna
high
sit
rocks
down.
with my parents, like
Corey's
one with each of my parents, and in those 2 HYROXes, the ratio is I've done 198 wall balls, and my parents have done 2 total. That is the
Corey's
ratio.
ready. He is ready for me to fail him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But
okay.
it won't be a big deal. So
The
I
rest
just
of your-
think overall, there's just a lot more space to make up on the runs. I mean, because the range on the runs is anywhere from those super elite people are doing 3:30 1Ks, and if you run really slowly, you're looking at like an 8:30 1K, with like your 8.5 minute or your 8 minute mile, 9 minute mile, whatever we said a minute ago, is a 5.
Yeah, 9. 9 is like
5:30.
5:30.
Yeah, so there's a range of 3.5 to 8.5 minutes on the runs. The worst farmer's carry at any event ever is probably like 4 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna vary. It's just a smaller window, so there's less space to make up time on the events overall. And I think that saving yourself a little bit on the events to then run faster is going to pay dividends. So I would say for you two, I would think opening up your runs at around your 10K pace, whatever that is, and make it the 10K pace of whichever one of you is faster, and then just know that that person should feel a little bit better going into the event, so anytime they can finish the event for the other partner and then like give them a little break before the next run, that'd be useful. I think that's what you start at, and then if you two feel good as you exit the row, then pick it up and have negative splits in the second half. But in general, I think you want to try to run the same 1K every time. If it's a 5:30 pace, which I think is aggressive, just based on like the 5K times, if I would say close to your 10K pace is probably a good pacing for your first race, especially the start of the race, because those first 4 events suck so bad. Like, those are so hard. I think because you two are so strong, the sleds are not going to take it out of you like they will other people. But
I was thinking we
for
aim
sleds will
closer
be
to a
tough.
6 to start and then get faster. Because when I did my mock and I was just beat up from doing it, but I was around a 6:10, 6 something, and that it was manageable. Like, it was something I could have kept finishing the run on.
That's like a
kinda thing.
9:40 mile. But if y'all ran a 6 every time, you guys could put up a good time.
Yeah.
Like, definitively, you could put up a good time. And
Or
then
I
if you
could
feel
feel
good,
that
you
by
pick it
the
up in
end
second
of,
half.
because the half HYROX was, I did the first 5 events. So by the time I got to that, off of that row, and the row is where I was like, I could just go. Because by the time I got off the rower, I did 500, got off the rower, my heart rate was right back down. And I was like, I could hammer those last 3 runs. Because you're like, I only got 3 of these left. I already did 5. I can do 3 more faster.
Yeah.
So I think
And
he's
this
right.
is where all of the pacing stuff is so different talking to Alyssa for a solo.
Yeah.
Because with you two, I'd say, hey, when you rest on the row, recover, not only are you not pushing the pace during your 500-meter row, you also have 500 meters, which is going to lead to 2 minutes and 20 seconds or so of just standing there. Like, you have a massive break at that point. So, like, what I want y'all to do is, as you two come into the row, whoever's starting it, I want the other partner to grab, like, 3 things of water and then, like, trottle in behind you. And then, okay, cool. While Danny's rowing the first 500 meters, Carly's sitting there sipping on water and then sets the waters down behind. Danny, you gop off, Carly hops on, and Danny just has a legitimate 2 minutes and 20 seconds to just stand there and sip water. And then you guys go into the last half of the race feeling like $1 million.
Yeah, because that farmer's
like that.
carry,
Yeah.
that farmer's carry is gonna. I honestly think, due to Corey's programming, the wall balls are gonna. I mean, they're gonna suck, but at the same time, the amount of squatting I have done and wall balls I have done in my life has been. I did CrossFit for like 5 years, Corey. I think I've done more wall balls in your programming than I did in my 5 years of CrossFit.
Clients,
I'm ready.
Clients,
I'm
good
ready.
news.
Doesn't matter.
We have
And
we have
doubles
removed
are
some
gonna
of
be
this if you're listening from the HYROX V2, simply to fit your work schedules, not because Corey's a bad programmer.
No, I mean, because I distinctly remember texting both Corey and Carly, and I was like, I can't do it, guys. I can't do wall balls. Like, and I'm tall, so they shouldn't be that bad. But I was like, how are you getting 99 wall balls? How are you getting 40 unbroken? And now I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do freaking 35. I'll do 40, whatever. I'm like, okay,
You're
like,
doing great. But you don't
It's
even
just
like,
practice.
on race day racing with Carly. You don't even have to. If you do 20 for her, she'll be fine. and then
Are
Carly
you-
can do 20. And you
I
guys
thought you
bang
were
that
gonna
out
say,
a
and then
couple
I do
times, and then you're
80.
done. Like, it won't be
Send
long.
it, Carly. Bring it in.
The,
Oh.
the
I was like,
hard
I
part is
think we're
Alyssa
mistaken.
doing it solo. Because
My wall balls are gonna be. I'm telling Luke to cut it from the vlog. That's gonna be the most embarrassing fitness endeavor. This is my kryptonite. Wall balls.
We're gonna be cheering you on though at the end.
Because
So
it's
we're
going to be
give you that
so
boost.
embarrassing. It's
It'll be
going to
good.
smack me in the face. I'm going to get winded. I'm going to have a snot rocket. I'm going to have to cough. Like, it's going to just not be. It was pretty bad after I'll show you guys my heart rate data. My heart rate was like pretty steady the whole time. And you can see the spike of the wall balls. I just don't think I breathe correctly in them. Anyway,
I have to hop off, but
okay.
I gotta go do
You
real
do.
job
Carly
stuff.
has
get a real
Bye.
plan.
Carly would
Great.
take it over. Danny has the real job. So awesome. Well, I don't know if Trevor's hopping on or not because he's coming back from his coaching thing. But I think the only other things you guys really have then are lunges and row, which we kind of talked about, and farmers carries, and those ones are objectively easier events, right?
Yeah.
Like they're logistically a little bit easier. Rowing
Yeah.
is technical, but
sled pull, sled push, either cut it in half or both of you do 2 lengths. If you feel good enough to do a whole length, just do that. If you feel like that's going to gas you out too much on the day, just do quarters, and each of you goes 4 times. There's no wrong answer there, as long as you do one of those 2 things. That's true for sled push and sled pull. The row, just don't get on and off a bunch of times. Either split it 500, 500, or if one of you feels really good, 600, 400. And that extra 100 meters makes a massive difference if you're hurting, because you both get an extra 100 meters of rest, which is 30 seconds, and you get to go 30 seconds less work, and that combo is amazing. Hopping off of that, you have the farmer's carry. The farmer's carry is going to be a joke for you two. Just walk, and you'll be fine. Either set it down halfway.
I have a
and straight
serious
off.
question about the farmers carries.
Yes.
What if your hands are really sweaty by that point? Do they have chalk?
They have a ton of chalk.
Okay. That's like the one thing that I've been genuinely worried about
Yeah.
with training. I was
So
like,
they have
it's
chalk.
kind of gross.
They have chalk at the front of the sled pull, and they
Okay.
have chalk at the farmer's carry. So you're fine there. And then, like, you can jog it if you want, but honestly, like, if you two were racing me and I walked it and the two of you jogged it but set it down halfway and then picked it up, we'd finish at about the same time. Like, it doesn't make a big difference. Like, this is one where, Alyssa, when we do New York, we can talk about it. But definitively, I can just walk and do the whole farmer's carry. Like,
Okay.
if for content purposes we need to get you doing that, sure. But, like, it doesn't really
You're
help
ruining the
our time.
illusion of the fact that everything I do is
Valid.
Corey's
Valid.
poking the
can-
bubble.
Yeah, we can
We
edit
gotta,
this out.
we gotta get a
Yeah.
videographer videographing Luke, videographing us, so that everyone can see the behind the scenes of the behind
Yes,
the scenes
that'll be good.
of
Yeah,
all
I'll
the
bring my
content.
video guy.
Sweet,
to
and we'll have
video your video
Inception,
guy.
and everyone can see how
Yeah.
I'm
The
now just a
farmer's carry,
con
I wouldn't
machine.
worry about. Lunges, either go 10 steps at a time or just do a distance. It's going to be 100 meters total. So if you guys can just do 25 meters and hand off, awesome. If you need to cut it a little bit shorter than that, do so.
Trevor,
What up, Trevor?
Trevor.
Hello, sorry, I got a little sidetracked.
it's okay. This is Dr. Trevor Baston, everyone, joining us live from Corbin in Watkinsville, Georgia.
Yeah.
Can y'all
And
hear the
then-
wind at all?
I
Sorry
did for a
to
second,
derail
but
this.
then it stopped.
Not now. Yeah. And then the only, talking about like weird rules things, on the lunges, when you guys hand off the bag to one another, Carly and Danny, Alyssa and Carly, me and you, Alyssa, you can't pass the bag forward. And so people get
Okay.
really hung up on this all the time. And basically all it means is like you can't like move forward by the way you're handing the bag off. So like if I need to hand it to Alyssa, she can't walk in front of me and then it let me like toss it to her in front of me, because that would be moving forward.
Advancing, right?
Yeah.
So she's got to be behind you. And is
Yes.
the best thing, like I've seen people go back to back and just like hand it off that way. Is that the best way to do it?
With you two, Carly and Danny, with how strong you are, you can do whatever you want. It's
Okay.
harder when you have two women that are not as strong and they're doing like the pro weight, which is 44 pounds, and they struggle to like lift and manipulate that with their upper body. You're doing open because the DC race is all open. So that's not going to be an issue for you at all. Maybe when you two do Atlanta and you have a 44-pound bag, you have to like worry about those logistics. But no,
Are we
it's not a big
doing
deal.
pro women doubles in Atlanta?
No,
Yeah.
me and Danny are doing pro in New York
Oh,
City.
I was like, hang on,
Okay.
this is news
Oh,
to
my
me.
bad. My bad.
This is
Did not mean
news
to
to
scare you.
me.
Oh, in that case, so yeah, for both of your races, it's not going to be an issue at all, like in the slightest, because you two can manhandle a 22-pound bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, 22 pounds feels like I feel like that's
Yeah, you have to get fancy
I don't
with
want to
it
jump to a
if the
conclusion, but
woman lacks the upper body strength to like get it over her shoulders, onto her neck, etc.
okay.
But for you two, you're going to be fine.
Okay. And actually, while we're talking about lunges, I have a question. So,
Yeah.
like regarding rules. So, with walking lunges, both feet have to be past the line, correct? Before you can like loop on to the neck. Like if it's two lengths, do both feet have to cross the ending line before you can either go into your run or go to the next length?
Yes, but I think you're wording that in a way that's confusing to me. And so
Okay.
I'm going to rephrase it. So as
Perfect.
you get to the end and there's like the last line, you need to lunge over that line with your front leg.
Okay.
And then as you stand back up, obviously your back leg will also be passing forward over the line.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. Easy.
All
Any other
right.
technical questions about that event?
I honestly think after doing my weird mini rocks thing that I did this weekend, that it's really the first half of the race that is the race, and then the wall balls just really slap it home for you. But like, I
For,
really,
for solo, for sure. The wall
yeah,
balls suck in solo. I think
yeah.
that's really challenging.
But I feel like a lot of the densities in the first like third of it, first half of those events. Like I feel like the what I felt at least was like it was a lot more hard. Like you couldn't recover. Like you couldn't find recovery in those first few events. Obviously in doubles you guys have recovery built in for you, but that was my observation from my like mini thing, which now I'm thinking about what kind of workout I want to do today.
Yeah. Well,
Now
that's
we're done
where
with this call.
figuring out kind of your pacing strategy matters. So, like, Carly and Danny could say, hey, we're going to run our 5K PR pace, but then they need to recover on the events more. You could also take the opposite strategy and say, I'm going to recover on the runs, which it sounds kind of like what Danny did running her 6-minute 1Ks the other day. That sounds like a reasonable pace for her, where she kind of quasi recovered on the run and then probably took a moderate pace on the events.
You know, I was thinking, and I was doing this with training a lot earlier, pre all my travel, where I was like kind of going harder in my whatever was meant to trash my legs before my 1Ks and then kind of having to recover a little bit out. But I think I'm going to shift my personal approach to being a slightly more conservative on events. And so I can run hard out instead of having to, my, OG strategy, especially the CrossFit stuff, is I've always was a stronger runner than I was like anything else. So I would recover on the runs while everyone else was kind of getting gassed on the runs, where here you're not, I'm not the best runner in this gym anymore. So that used to be like my approach of just like using the first, like Carly was saying, like 10, 15 seconds. And I probably will do that honestly with me. I tend to get like my quads like fatigue out really easily with me with anything at training, getting some, blood flowing back to my body. But I think that I might have to personally take that slightly more conservative event, harder run approach, which you guys are slightly doing maybe more middle ground with that, it seems, with the Danny's pacing. So it'll be interesting to see how you guys do. We're all going to flounder it and it's all going to be okay.
Alyssa, do you have an idea of 1K paces you want to try to run in DC versus in Atlanta versus in New York?
As fast as I can, but I don't know. I have been so kind of negative in my head about this race, coming off of Kilimanjaro, which I know is like such an arrogant thing to say of like, well, I was in Kilimanjaro for 2 weeks and my training just like wasn't that good. So like having Patagonia and Kilimanjaro back to back was an amazing life experience, but having that back to back in the like essentially like the 12 weeks up to DC, 4 of them of those 12 weeks were I was traveling and I had 2 weeks in between. So I felt like me and Noah really focused on running for primarily most of my training. I haven't done a ton of event specific stuff until maybe January. And then recently. So, and I think again, like Corey mentioned, like I'm strong. I have a background in doing CrossFit. I have a background in doing this kind of stuff. It's not like it's super unfamiliar to me. So I would say I was feeling a ton of fatigue and a ton of lack of recovery coming off of Kilimanjaro into Noah's wedding, into training at the gym that weekend, into back home. And so last week was the first week that I started to feel a little bit more normal in my training. So I've been trying to like not judge myself off that and know like what we talked about, like that cumulative fitness is still there. Like the 2 weeks between Patagonia and Kilimanjaro, me and Noah pretty much just hammered running intensity for me to keep that stimulus there. So I think I did my 750 meter runs, which is for my mini rocks for people listening here. I did like a mini HYROX last weekend that I wanted to be like a 75% effort, but like some events were more like 60 to 80% effort. Some were only 50% effort. Some like it was just, dropped in some random gym. The turf was a weird situation. It was a whole thing. I like mixed in a sled with some guys and just got what I could get out of the distance that they'd let me do. So I did all the runs though at 750 meters and I kept about, I want to say, oh man, no, did it on an air runner and I remember paying attention. I want to say they were like 5-minute 1K efforts or 4:30 to 5-minute 1K efforts. I want to say maybe I have to go back and look at it. I want to say that's about where I was at. Like that was my pace effort of that. And I had it pretty steady. I think I was close to that 4:30 range the first few, got closer to like 5 minutes, maybe a little over as I got fatigued in that middle section where I did sleds and running back to back. And then I kind of picked back up to like maybe 4:50s to 5 minutes again. Again, I'm having to extend that and I'm doing more work in between. So I think that that's a good estimate for me. My threshold pace, I would say, is probably around an 8-minute mile. And I think like I can hold between 7:30s and 8:30s, just depending on how fatigued my legs are when I'm running, just based off of my general training that I've been doing. Corey and me talked about this. For all of my HYROX compromise running workouts, I'm having to like run out of my garage around the sidewalk in my apartment complex. It's like windy and there's turns and there's road crossings. So like a lot of my data has not been perfect. So I haven't had a clear delineation of like how fast I'm actually running. But I think that for me is probably like that 5-minute per 1K is probably a good assumption for me to hold. Just also with the context of maybe by next Sunday, I'll actually have some recovery in me. If I keep eating a half a box of cereal a day, tapering into this, I might be able to hold a little faster. I've done I did a workout right before Kilimanjaro where it was like heavy goblet squats into 1K runs and I held a 7:45 pace for like 5 rounds of that. So I think that I have potentially slightly faster end of that spectrum in me. I think it just really depends on how the event goes for me. I don't know. I know running is my strength, but I'm still a pretty mediocre runner in context to a lot of these people doing HYROXes. I think that Atlanta, I talked about this with Carly just now, Corey, so it's not a secret. And I told you this to you the other day. Like, I'm not as worried about me being as like primed for Atlanta just because there's a bigger discrepancy between me and Carly as runners. So I'm going to probably not be as worried about being like fully like tapered, recovered into that because I know that my running will be fine. I don't want to be fatigued or anything like that, but I want to keep my training momentum going and not lose like a whole week of training more or less on that. For New York, I don't know. That's 9 weeks more of training for me. I did like my 500 meter paces. I've been doing it like a 6:25 to 6:35 pace. So I think that like I haven't done 1Ks in a while, but when I was doing them with Noah, I could in just running, like just flat out running, they were like 350 to like 420 pace, not compromised. So there's my there's my hyper analysis of all of my training. Can't do a wall ball, but I can tell you every single data point of what I've been doing. So that's where I'm at. I don't know. I do think that I should pace myself a little bit more in the beginning after doing that, after feeling how that mini rocks. I honestly might, from today's workout, when we're done here, do the first half of the race again. That's just but swap the ski for a row or find a workout that you program, Corey, that has a lot of sleds and wall balls in it, because those are the things that I think are like my sticking points and feeling those out a little bit more. Not because the weight, just because I haven't been able to practice them as much. So I think for me, the things I'm most worried about are, honestly, the row and ski are just going to be not fast. I'm going to just focus on recovering on those and hammering my runs before and after them. I'm just not going to be faster than I am on them. Yeah. I think my sled will be slightly better than I think it is, but everyone says it feels worse than you think when you get there because of the carpet and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think too, though, most people that are getting ready for a HYROX race haven't done as many sled pushes as you have. And so I think the like prevailing advice is to warn people, hey, the sleds are really hard, the sled pull's really hard, be nervous about it, train it as heavy as you possibly can. And I think that's really good advice if you're like speaking on a podcast like this to like the masses that don't have access to it. But you've done worse sled push stuff with us in our gym many times. Like the sleds are hard and challenging, but I think the hardest part for you on the sleds is you're going to run a 1K and then you're going to get to the sled push and you're going to tire your legs out, and then a minute and a half later you're running another 1K. Like I think that'll be the challenge for you more so than anything else. Like you're good at those things.
Yeah, so I did notice that my legs fatigue more last week on the sled pull than the sled push. And I think that's because I'm driving a lot with my quads and I'm walking backwards. Maybe I need to be using more of my upper body on that a little bit more. I don't know. I just have such strong legs that it's just so much easier for me to like lean back and walk than it is for me to like do the pull step type thing that people do. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Maybe you have a different approach entirely and advice on that. But I think I'm more worried about my runs around those and the wall balls. I'm not expecting anything heroic from my ski or my row. I think honestly after last week, I kind of just recovered on the row, and I think that's the reason I was able to pick my running paces back up at the tail end of that workout last week, because I did 750 meters on the row and the ski, so that was a little bit more at 75%. I'm just not fast, but it's not hard for me unless I try. Unless I really try to be fast, then it's hard for me. It's more of it's for me to pull that high of that power output on row is more muscularly fatiguing than it is cardiovascular for me at any point in time. I feel like that's harder for me. So, that's kind of where I think I need to just pace myself. Maybe not necessarily even in the first run in the ski, but that second run into the sled section, and like that little bit, like letting myself pull back so I can then push towards the end. Because farmer's carries aren't too heavy for me. Lunges, honestly, are nothing to me. I don't think I could train a lunge and I'd be fine. Honestly, that might bite me in the butt when I get there. But I've done a lot of lunges in training, and they don't even fatigue my legs at all. It's the burpees and maybe some of the sled stuff that I think is what gets my quads, and that's what slows me down.
Yeah, I buy that. I buy that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you using the row and the ski as stations where it's not worth it for you to push it harder is smart. And then you can afford to push it harder on the others. And then just having a like pacing plan for the wall balls of I'm not going to break longer than 5 breaths in between every set of wall balls.
My problem isn't that I need long breaks. It's that I do like, I don't know. One, I think it's because I don't have a proper target in my gym. So I'm training with a 16-pound ball, but it's to a much smaller target. So it's heavier. So doing them last week when I dropped in that gym, it was 8 pounds, which felt significantly easier. But for me, it's like that high pushing up, and I get like disoriented, and I have to take like much smaller sets, but I can kind of get right into it. So I'm hoping that that's my plan. Maybe I'll do like 10 at a time just so I can like not pass out. I don't know why they get me like that. I don't know, Trevor, there's a moment if you ever remember me being at Liberate doing wall balls, I used to get dizzy all of the time. I don't know why that is a thing for me. I was trying to do big unbroken sets, but I think it's just like that huge reach for me for some reason disorients me so much. I'm going to practice some today and see with breathing, and maybe I can find a spot somewhere on a brick wall or something to try to aim to. Trevor, you're muted.
Training a heavier ball has come back to bite me in a similar way. Because I'll use a heavier ball and I'll have to break it up more, but then I don't get like the positional practice and learn how to breathe through the big sets that I need with like the 14-pound ball. So like the first time I picked up the 14-pound ball in my mock HYROX, I was like wheezing just because in that extended position I couldn't get a good breath, and I had never gotten to that point like cardiovascularly with the heavy ball and the pro doubles, and so I had to like back off and be like, all right, you're good with the heavy ball, that's not helping you with the light one as much, and do a lot more work with like big sets with the actual ball I was going to be using in the open.
So considering my race is in a week and a half, I only own a 16-pound ball and I don't have a target. What do you guys think I should do?
Honestly, even like air squats, just like run and then bang out like a set of 50 air squats or 75 air squats.
Okay. I was going to say, we did that one workout that I did last Wednesday. Corey, I love that workout that you programmed, the 3 10-minute AMRAPs. And it was like row and farmer's carry, and then it was, it was like burpees and lunges, and then it was bike and thrusters. And like I did 55 pounds on the thrusters, and it was 10 thrusters, and then his max every minute on the minute, that 10 thrusters, and then the bike. And like those 10 thrusters, I mean, it was 55 pounds, which isn't that heavy for a thruster, but compared to the wall ball, it is heavy. And those were like pretty quick for me. Like I could do those pretty easy. So it's like, I have something about that, the pressing up of it. And maybe that's it, Trevor, because if you look at my heart rate data, I think you weren't on the call yet from my like mini rocks I did last weekend. I mean, I was at like that 160 to 168 for most of my like effort of that whole time I was training, which is like threshold plus, which makes sense because there's cardiac drift and all that stuff with the events and blah, 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 blah. I know you know this, Trevor, but people listening might not. But the heart rate for my wall balls was like, it was like the only zone 5 of my entire data from that day. And I could feel, I was embarrassing. Like I'm in this gym, like dying. I'm like, like wheezing in the back corner. Hang on, Trevor, you're in and out. There you go.
Corey alluded to it, and it's just so different between like the open and the doubles with the wall ball. Like I did the pro doubles, it was a 20-pound ball. Sets of 25 were not an issue on my lungs at all. And then you lower the ball by 6 pounds, I get like my legs and arms feel fine, but that extended position, I guess with like the diaphragm sort of coming up, I'm like wheezing. So it's a lot of just practice doing that for sets of 50, 60. That's been helping there more so than actually getting better.
Do you have a 15-pound kettlebell or dumbbell, Lyss?
I have a 20-pound. I mean, I have adjustable dumbbells, so I
take the adjustable dumbbell and like do a single thruster with that.
Okay, maybe I'll try that. I just more so because I'm not going to get any fitter in the next week and a half,
but you
right?
can feel what it feels like. So for me,
right now, it's like I'm using today's training and Saturday or Friday training. I have like 3 conditioning sessions and my speed work left this week. My week's a little out of order because I'm going home this weekend. But today I'm going to do a longer conditioning session. I might honestly do Saturday's session today, and I'm going to go cherry pick another one from our thing that's more specific to me, or do like a HYROX type thing again, just to feel out some of that stuff. And I was trying to find like a compilation of like sleds and wall balls, because that's the thing that sleds, wall balls, and rowing are really my limiters. Not that because I think I'm too weak for sleds. I just think that it's the sleds into running that I haven't had as much with. Not that I can't push or pull that weight. It's not that heavy. I did 205. I think it was 345s in a sled, which is like 205, I think, last weekend. And I pulled that as the same for the push because it was, again, working with those dudes. So I think the sled pull will feel lighter than I've practiced with, but the push will feel, I don't know. But I don't know, Corey, I'm open to any of your advice and guidance off of my wide range of running paces and my 3 weeks of HYROX specific training going into this.
So, what do you know, like a recent 5K or 10K for you, Alyssa? Like, do you have an idea?
So, maybe in December, when I was really mad that one day that girl copied my programs, I went and ran like 3 miles in the middle of a run hard, and that was in like 23 or 24 minutes.
Okay.
I want to say would probably be based off like how fast I ran that versus my paces now, I want to say maybe 23 to 24 minutes would be my estimated 5K pace, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say, so when you and I run, I would love it if we can run together your 5K pace. I think that's possible and doable. And let's say that by that point, that's a 22:30, which would be a 4:30 per kilometer 1K. Trevor, you went to college. Is all that math to you?
That makes sense. That's like a 7:30, which is what I'd probably say. I haven't tried to link up any running recently, so I don't know. But I think 7:30 is realistic for us by New York.
Yeah, that's a 4:30 1K, right? Which is equivalent to a 22:30 5K, which is, I think, reasonable in doubles as like a top end pace. especially if I can like help out on the events a little bit extra, like it's even more doable. I think for solo, I would be closer to like 10K to half marathon pacing is
Okay.
where I would like try to pace it. And since it's your first one and the excitement of all the like there's filming, there's flashing lights, it's the countdown and you're competitive, even throttling even more so like to the half marathon side of that, especially at the beginning to like talk yourself out of killing yourself because
I
the
think my
adrenaline's
goal
pumping
is
you.
like if I can stick to my threshold plus range,
Yeah.
at least at first, like the 8 to 8:30 minute mile pace probably is more of that. Because that seems like based off all of my training, like not overly taxingly doable for
Okay.
me. There's been some workouts where I feel like absolute dog shit and I'm
Yeah.
running like a 9:30 for my intervals, but that isn't the norm. So I think that like that threshold to half marathon, which is probably in that range, right below zone 4, upper zone 3 probably is more. I think I can probably hang on the runs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to try to not blow myself up in the beginning and just keep that, because I did feel a big swing in recovery towards the second half of that when I did it the other day.
Yeah.
So I did notice that. And I think that's just because of the events.
Yeah. And I just think like from a confidence standpoint, if you could get to the second half and feel good and then pick it up, I just think that'd be so much more enjoyable than coming out a little bit too hot and then dying on the lunges and wall balls. Because I know you're strong, but like those lunges into the wall balls does suck when you're going solo.
And the wall balls are going to get me, man. I'm going to have to buy myself 5 minutes of time just for the end. They're like, Alyssa could have gone sub 30, but she spent 45 minutes on the wall ball.
Oh, that's another. The other place that people lose time is that rock zone. Is just stopping to get water, walking. Hey, I'm going to walk for 10 seconds, which turns into 20, 30. That's the other spot that gets people bad in these
Yeah.
races.
How big is that? I know people talk about that a lot, the rock zone.
Yeah, it varies. They try their best to make it consistent. So according to like HYROX HQ, it's 8 kilometers of running, and it should be 8.7 kilometers of running every time, including the rock zone. The issue is, I just don't know. I'm not trying to call them liars, because this is on your podcast, and I don't know how libel and slander work. But I just think that sounds so hard for them to actually pull off in terms of consistency of rock zones across all these different venues. So I would say once you get the DC map and you can see like how many laps it is, the more laps it is, the smaller the venue is, the smaller the rock zone is. So like when we did when we did Dallas the first year, Trevor and I, it was a 3-lap race and the rock zone was pretty small. So it was easier and faster. When we did Dallas last year, it was in the same convention center, but it was in a different area. It was a bigger venue. It was only 2 laps around. And so it went from this big to this big. And so there's just more space on the inside that you had to run between. And everybody's rock zone time was bigger than it was the year before. And I don't think it was because everybody got less fit or had a dumber strategy than previous. Would you agree with that, Trevor?
Yes. Our run times, I think, from year to year dropped about 25 seconds on average on the 1Ks. And we jogged the rock zone, and our total time was almost the exact same from year to year. So probably about an extra, 15 to 20 seconds in the rock zone for that second year in Dallas.
Like per lap, though, which can
Probably
add up.
Yeah.
Per 1K.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, per 1K.
So can you just keep running through the rock zone?
You
Is that
can
like
and should.
okay?
But it's also just because you're tired. It's just very easy mentally. It's like any other like round number you get to. Like when you guys are doing wall balls, you're gonna stop at like 10 or 15 or 20. You're probably not gonna stop at 14.
Don't put it past me.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd love it. I'd love to see it. You know, people stop when they get to like a logical stopping point because
Yeah.
mentally it's an appropriate time to break. So it's very easy to say, "Oh man, Danny just finished that sled pull. She's dead. Hey, let's just walk until we get to the start line and start running again." that's so reasonable to do, and you just have to convince yourself that you're not going to do that.
Okay.
This is
Yeah,
hard.
my biggest thing is also too, like I've literally been thinking about this, is one, I can't snot rocket in a HYROX because it's not a trail race, which is really hard for me to think about because my sinuses have been more of an issue with training than like literally anything else. I'm wearing a shirt. Corey, I know that you're the only person on the team that wears a shirt. I think I'm wearing a shirt so I can blow my nose into it. And two,
Are you saying you're going to use my shirt to blow your nose on?
no, I'm going to use my own shirt.
Oh,
I'm going
okay.
to use my own shirt.
It's like,
no,
we
no,
can. This is it's a higher level of teamwork.
I got us
than I was
matching shirts.
expecting.
Don't worry. Side note, guys, Noble is sponsoring the TLM team's HYROX events. This is really exciting. I haven't officially signed the contract, but I'll make sure I sign it before this is posted on Friday. They just sent me the stuff. I'll have it for everyone. Corey and Trevor, I'll have your stuff with me, and I'm going to give Corey stuff to Trevor, if that's okay with you, Trevor. If not, I'll bring it to Atlanta for you, Corey. But I got us matching. I told him to get us both black shirts for Newark, which is great because we'll roast in New York in our black shirts.
Yes. Yes.
We will roast in New York in our
love
black
it.
matching
One
shirts.
of my like HYROX tips for people, because I started wearing like this bright blue shirt, and it's great because if you're trying to cheer for me, I'm so recognizable in my like neon blue shirt.
I always
as I'm
wonder because you
jogging
don't
around.
usually wear that much color, but in HYROX races, you're always wearing that blue shirt.
Yeah, it's so easy to spot.
That's like when
me.
we went to amusement parks as a kid, and my mom would make my dad wear orange, so
Yes.
she could always find him.
Yes,
It's
smart.
kind of the same theory, right?
Exactly the same.
Okay, so is there for solo then from you two who have done it? You know, is there a point where you think that it's like runs are worth pushing more than others, or is it really just depending on how I kind of feel? Like, do you think that like if I get through row, should I just send it on runs if I feel good the rest of the time, or like when do you draw that line?
Yes.
Go ahead, Trevor.
So I'll start at the beginning. I for sure think that you should get to the sled worried that you're pacing a little bit too much. Like you should feel very fresh when you get to the sled. Like
Okay.
that first run, ski, run should not be that taxing because the sled, I mean, regardless of who you are, what your strengths are, like the sled's going to wreck your legs.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't really gauge anything as far as like what to push or like adaptations to make to your plan until you are through the sled. Personally, I use the row as recovery, so I'll redline a bit on the burpees. So like that run to the burpees, and then the run to the run to the row. I will be a little bit above threshold by that point, and then I'll row slow, and then
Okay.
I will use that row as a little drop to slingshot into those last three events. So the farmer's carry is generally not too bad, but then you really want a little bit of kick in you by the time you get to the lunge and the wall balls.
Okay, my question then is that sounds actually in line to Trevor. Not say we have similar fitness, but I feel like we have comparable fitness. We're also you're shorter on the end of things, so I think that's helpful, right? Because like that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, yeah, I'm strong, but sleds are still gonna make my legs tired, right? Like no matter how strong I am, because then you can just push faster, and then you're still wrecked again. With me, again. Trevor, I know you have the same issue with me with the wall ball thing. Do you think that I should send my last run because if I feel good, or should I still pull that back a little bit because those wall balls are okay? Corey's saying no.
I want Trevor's opinion also.
I wouldn't send it. Like you should be able to walk up to the wall ball and not be like, "Oh man, I don't even want to pick this up." Like you, but I don't know. It's tough. I'm gonna say you should pace it perfectly. You know.
Pace it perfectly. Great. Awesome. Well, I'm not going to lie. This is helpful. I know that like Carly had some setbacks. I was feeling very dramatic. When I got the weekend after Noah's wedding and I came home, my training felt horrific and my sinuses were really bad. And that Sunday before last week, the Sunday like before last week's training where it was kind of good, I was ready to drop out of this race. I think I told Corey this. I think eventually I told Carly and Danny this just because I was like, I don't know. I just didn't want to do something that I felt like my body wasn't not ready for, because like then I was like, okay, Alyssa, you can also just sandbag a HYROX and get the experience and learn about pacing. But you know, there's so much pressure of like everyone's paying attention to me and my pace and my effort. It's comparable, and I don't know, like it. I just didn't want to be like choking on my snot, unable to run in a venue while it's being videotaped in front of everyone. But we're showing up and we're doing it. So this is helpful and making me feel better. After all that, but I was in negative spirits. I was very much so in negative spirits, not this past Sunday, the Sunday before. So hopefully I can get in some good training that makes me feel good. I'm doing only one hard run and one hard training session this week. Everything else I'm treating as like easy pacing. Just because I need a deload this week more than but taper week is next week. So like, I'm just trying to like ride that line through. So that's my strategy right now. And I told that to Carly and Danny is like, I'm going to treat one conditioning session as hard, one as like an easy but continuous effort, and then one as my speed workout. I did a 6.5 mile run yesterday for my zone 2, for that. So that's kind of my plan into this, but this is helpful because I think I'm just going to kind of use those workouts to just like make sure I include wall balls, make sure I include sled, make sure I just like practice the thing again that I'm feeling nervous about to get more of a feel for it. And then I guess we'll see. Do you have like how do you pace yourself like during the race? Like, do you use your running watch? I'm assuming GPS doesn't really work very well in that.
Oh,
like,
it's a great question.
Yeah.
I got a whole system.
Okay. You have a system?
So on my Garmin, I changed the indoor track workout to a workout that I renamed HYROX. And so my screen that I'm looking at during my run is my heart rate, my lap time, and it's like estimation of my lap pace, but it's indoors, so the GPS doesn't work great. But I can guesstimate based off of that lap time and where I'm at on the course, kind of a rough estimate of like where I am. So like the Dallas race was 2 laps. So as I got around half a lap, I could say, okay, multiply that number by 4, and that's going to be my finish time. And so I'd get to, the half lap point, see that I was at a minute 15 and go, okay, cool, this is a 5-minute 1K because 1:15 times 4 is 5 minutes. When I get around the corner here, I need to be at 2:30. And then get around the corner, I was at 2:28 or whatever. And so I'd kind of use that to pace myself since I couldn't count on the GPS. But I look at my watch continuously. Okay. And then when I'm doing it with a partner, if I get a chance to, like, I'll just say, like, hey, where are you? And I'll just get him to tell me, like, red, orange, green.
Orange Theory Fitness.
I just assume red.
When I did my mock HYROX, that's what I did. I had in mind, I also have an Apple Watch, which I hate, but I just set it on like mixed cardio.
Fucking poor. Lame. I just did circuit on mine. Yeah. I am not going to wear my chest strap because I have a feeling that that's going to be annoying. I wear it a lot for my training, but I probably won't race in it. I won't be that. I don't know, man. Guys, great data. Doing burpees with a chest strap on is actually really annoying, though. What? Yeah. Under the sports bra line, too. It's like every single time it hits you, you're like, everything else, it's fine, though. I have my Whoop, but you can't see your Whoop screen. So I'll probably just do my run watch on the circuit and I guess I'll have to lap it.
That's what I did. Just press lap.
Just press lap. I lap mine manually coming into the rock zone and exiting it so I can see it. I don't really worry about it during the event because I'm just doing the event, but I worry about it on the run to like make sure that I'm running about right.
Sweet. Well, before we wrap this up, because we're going to send people a 2-hour podcast. Trevor, you're not roasting. You're racing Males Open. So we're both the soloers. Trevor gets to go first and then be done for the rest of the weekend. Lucky him. How are you feeling? How many races have you done so far? And then go ahead.
This is my first solo. So I did an open doubles in Dallas the first year we went, so 2 years ago, and then did a pro doubles in Dallas this most recent November, and then this will be my first solo open.
Okay, that's exciting. I didn't know that. I guess I didn't know that. Man, everyone just doubles first. I'm really doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm really doing it wrong.
I feel good about it. The pro weights were definitely really heavy for me. I was lucky I had a really strong partner. So I think the open is sort of where I fit in the best. My running has definitely improved. Got a little sick last week and got a little bit of training derailed, but I think it got derailed a whole lot more in my head than it actually did.
So you and me had the same middle mental fit, it sounds like.
Yeah, I tried to complain to Corey about it, and he had sort of a pep talk.
was a
Corey
great
needs
pep
to be
talk.
hired as
Corey's
a
great at pep
therapist.
talk. Corey is the biggest pep talk. No one makes me believe in myself more than Corey Davis. I'm gonna have Corey call me on speakerphone before I race.
No,
Just for that pep talk. Go ahead, Trevor.
Ready?
it wasn't one of those. It was more of a, you're being very dramatic about this.
Trevor's too.
It was the same. Trevor wasn't on the call earlier. Trevor had the exact same conversation the two of you had of like, he didn't say it this explicitly. He was like, hey, do you think my last 2 days of not being able to work out well have ruined my last 6 years of consistent fitness? And I was like, no, Trevor. I don't think the last 6 years of consistent fitness have been ruined by 2 bad days. And he's like, okay, cool. I'm good.
Or it was like, if any client here came up to you and said what you just said to me, what would you say? And I was like,
I would say you're the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. Get out of here.
see, I feel good. My running is pretty hot and cold in general. I run generally at a higher.
Trevor has a Garmin VO2 Max of 56, by the way. Continue.
I follow you on Strava. You're fine.
57.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Trevor's
Yeah.
been crushing his runs.
I run like low mileage, pretty high intensity. So I think just like there's some ups and downs that are inherent to that. But running's been going good. I've got my last like really tough HYROX sim workout as soon as I'm done with this, and so I'll kind of have a
Wait,
good.
Trevor, what are you doing?
I am doing 5 hardest events. So I'm cutting out the ski, row, and farmer's carry, and I'm just doing sled push, sled pull, burpee, lunge, wall ball. So all of the events that would give me like a little bit of a break, I'm cutting out, and I'm seeing the sort of pace I can hold
Yeah.
on my runs.
So you're doing the sled push, the sled pull, the burpee, and the wall ball.
Burpee, lunge.
And lunges.
And lunge. And then you're separating those with a 1K in between. And you're doing this exactly today, a week and a half out, because it's
Yeah.
giving you more time to taper and deload.
Doing this probably.
I love that, and I think that's a great like confidence builder as long as you let it build your confidence.
Yeah.
The only downside
I'll
to it
report
would
back in
be-
3 hours.
Yeah. The only downside would be if you do that and you go, oh my god, that was so hard. How could I possibly get through 3 more events? So you just have to like write down like the dude in Memento, like this is the hardest section. Don't let this psych me out. When you finish it, and you're like, oh my god, I've had to run another 3,000.
You want to know
meters.
what's the scariest part about this workout? I'm going to do it where I do the wall balls to our porch, which stains it, and Regis is going to divorce me after, but it'll be worth it.
That's
I'm going to have to get on my car with a magic eraser after and be scrubbing the side
That's
deck.
good content.
It's worth it.
That's
It's
worth
worth
it.
it.
Because
Yeah.
we were trying to find me a new target the other day, and he's like, oh, it leaves marks. We can't do it. And I'm just like,
we can buy
this is
paint.
the girl who my father had to replace the garage door because I used it for wall balls for lacrosse.
Oh god.
Look at my paint. Anyway, okay, Trevor, that's helpful. And I also appreciate that we're on the Save Wayne link because instead of doing my last stim workout Saturday or Sunday, I'm doing it today because I need that recovery and taper, and I know that about myself than just next week. I still have to do my hard runs, but I'd rather do that closer than totally blow myself up with hard running. And honestly, I care more about doing my hard run this week mixed in with the events than my hard run on its own. Like, I'm not getting faster this week, right? I'm just keeping my nervous system primed to harder paces, so I'm okay with doing that. Push back. I don't know how you feel about that, Trevor, but I like when me and Trevor are on the same wavelength because it means that I'm smart, right?
I don't know what
If Trevor
Trevor's
thought
doing
something
over
and I thought the same thing, I'm like, yes, I'm not shitty at my job.
I'm doing it today sort of out of necessity. I'm not sure I would do it. I would do it differently if I didn't
Yeah.
have. I'm going out of town this weekend, so I need to kind of.
Me too, Trevor. See,
Great minds.
that's why I was like, it's easier to do the harder workout when I can recover and I'm home than at my brother's gym. Man, same wavelength.
So yeah. Coming from the pro, I think I'll be able to hold a steady pace on the events. I just have to not be an idiot, especially on the burpees. I've got a really bad feeling, a little bit better than I think I should going into the burpees, and coming out real hot on those.
On that note, because you three are not racing at that point. Before you actually race, text us what your like pacing strategy is so we can have it and know it, and then we can yell at you, hey, slow down. And
Trevor, Corey, you're not
y'all.
going to be there.
Yeah,
Or
I
are
mean
you
y'all.
secretly showing up?
Yeah, it'd be sick.
I was kind of like, I was in the back of my head, I was like, that would be such a Corey move to do, to secretly show up.
Yeah.
Don't
I
do
gotta
it.
text Luke, like, Luke,
Yeah.
need to set this up. I'll show up.
Yeah,
in some
no,
shit. Yeah.
don't secretly show up. That would be okay. Trevor will be there to cheer me on, and Carly and Danny,
Yeah.
because I'm on myself Sunday flying solo. Well, I'm excited, Trevor.
Well, I
I didn't
forgot
realize
y'all
that.
were on 2 different days. Yeah, I couldn't show up anyway because I'd have to miss work on Monday.
Yeah, no, I'm Sunday. I'm kind of glad I have Saturday to just cheer on everyone and kind of just exist. We have clients racing too, and they're all in women's doubles or women's open. But I'm hoping that between that we can catch most people, other than when I'm racing. But the waves. Okay, last question about this before we yap people for 2 hours. How do the waves work with this? Is it a wave start or is it everyone at once? Or like how do it's obviously can't be everyone at once, right? But
Yeah,
how does that
they'll
work?
start a new wave every 10 minutes of like every possible event order. So like if Trevor's racing, Trevor, do you have your start time yet?
I might have gotten an email either today. I would assume it gets sent out like next Monday. If
It's
not.
usually like 3 days before.
Okay.
So, like next Wednesday even is reasonable.
Yeah.
But you'll get like your start time, and all of the men's open will be going at like, let's say 8 a.m. So they'll be 8 a.m., 8:10, 8:20, 8:30 until they're all done.
Okay. So you're never really racing against somebody on at any given point in time, like head to head, other than your group, but you're kind of mixed in with people then.
Correct. You can race and compare yourself to whoever starts in your wave.
Okay.
But that's all. There'll be like 15, 20 people that are starting at the same time as you that you can compare yourself to, but that's it.
So it's kind of mixed. That makes me feel like there's a little less pressure on me. I
It's
put a lot of
once you
pressure on
get out
myself
there-
here, guys. It's
Yeah,
just
once you get out there,
nerve-wracking.
it's really hard to tell who you're racing against,
Okay.
especially on the runs. On the events, you can tell a little bit more because you should be getting to the events at roughly the same time.
Yeah.
But like by the time you get to row, even like you have no idea. Hey, am I catching this person, or am I lapping them, or are they lapping me? Like you don't really know.
It can almost get you in trouble because you could be coming off like the burpees and you could have somebody right in front of you who just did their first ski and you're like, oh, I don't want them to make up time on me, and you end up chasing them and they just started and you're in the thick of it. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is help. That makes, I don't know, for some reason that makes it feel a little less stressful for me, because then I can just be like, this is my race and I'm focused on my race, than like feeling like, I don't know. I'm competitive, but I'm also like good about not being competitive in an unhealthy way. But something about this, like I should have just documented it secretly and then told people after.
Yeah.
I'm putting so much pressure on myself, the influencer side of me, where regular Alyssa's like, let's fuck around and find out, have some fun, friends. Like,
Well, it is hard too, especially at the beginning of the race, because there's not a lot of like super experienced HYROX racers yet. So people come out way too fast.
So
And then
fast.
ski way too fast. And it's like, cool, like I need to remind myself that this is an hour and 20-minute long race. And these people that are sprinting right now are either going to like absolutely dog walk me, or I'm going to catch them by the sled and it's fine. So it's like either way, I need to throttle back.
yeah. Do they segment people in the waves by pace? They're just random? Okay.
I don't know if it's random per se, but it's not based on your performance.
Okay.
Yeah. They, the first year in Dallas, like 2 years ago, they asked for your estimated pace.
They still
So-
do.
Oh, they still do? So they might factor that in.
Corey, what did you put for mine?
I put down a realistic time. I believe in you.
But what did you put?
Well, I don't want to put it on the podcast because what if I'm way wrong? I want to say I put 115.
I don't no idea. I have no context.
fair.
It makes
Yeah.
me nervous.
That's fair.
Trevor,
Yeah.
do you feel like that, or do you feel like you have context because you've done doubles?
I've also done a lot of like full mock Hyroxes here.
Oh, that's true. So you have an idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'd be really happy. I'd feel a lot less stupid than if it took me, like, I don't want to say time then that's slow and then make people feel bad for it. It's just so much pressure. So much pressure to perform.
It is a lot.
Just when you're.
But I think the cool thing is like, yes, you're doing solo first, and then you're gonna have double, so like your time is going to be different. But I think it's cool that we're doing 3 in a row, because every single one we're gonna be like, okay,
we're gonna learn something so different.
Too hard on this. Let's dial it in here. Like,
it'll be fun too.
I know I'm really well on this.
The Atlanta race, you two are doing it together, and then I'm doing it with a partner also. So we'll be able to come off and say, hey, we both did a race on April 26th. How did we feel heading into New York? Which should be fun.
I'm excited. I am excited. I think I just need to rip the Band-Aid, really is what it is. I don't know why, guys, I'm so nervous. Like, I hate to say it. Like, I'm supposed to be like big tough Alyssa, but like, I'm like afraid I'm gonna
we
be
do
like
big
really,
scary
really bad.
things.
But
That's our job.
But here's the thing. This is the very Alyssa thing that I do, though, is I'm like, oh, I'm going to be so bad at everything I do in life. And then I'm not bad at anything I do in life. And then I'm like, fucking gotcha, bitch. HYROX might be my kryptonite. Wall balls. I'm going to be at like 103, and everyone's going to be like, how did she do that? She's not even that fast. And then I'm going to take 45 minutes on wall balls. So sweet. Okay, well, that's the rundown for everyone listening to the podcast. I guess I'm going to abruptly stop there that we're an hour and a half in. But hopefully, though, like that, I know that was a lot of us yapping and strategizing and kind of team coaching, preset calling. But so many of you are doing your first HYROX solo, like me or Trevor. Most people, I think, start with open unless you're freakishly fit. Then you go right to Poro, or you start with doubles. I think a lot of people start with doubles before they go to singles, or they stay with doubles, because it's a really fun way to also break up the workload. You're doing like 50% of the workload with the running and all that stuff. And just to hear how we're thinking and approaching this, obviously, like, this is the time where I plug TLM and the Lyss Method and what we do. But if you want our kind of help with this, like, this is things that we can help you with in the app with figuring out. We've had some clients who've posted in the group, like, hey, I had this with this and this. Corey is just eager to answer anything that I don't get to before him. Once I get my experience, though, Corey, my one race experience. No, I'm just kidding. But Corey's in there, Trevor's in there. We have our first version of our HYROX program that Corey and Trevor and Danny worked on last year. Getting that out to everyone. I know everyone's like anxiously waiting for HYROX V2, but we just need to refine things as we go through it. So don't wait on that, right? Like, start training before you get to V2, right? Like, we have beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels in our V1. The reason we're doing V2 is because we know a lot of you are going to start racing more frequently. You might become more advanced, or you might want something different. But we have to TLMify it. Corey did a great job, but it's written for someone who trains in Corey's gym, not written for you guys who are training in multiple situations. So that's just my disclaimer, because I know people are wanting it. We're beta testing it to make it as good as we can for you, and that's intentional. So we have V1. We're there in the app. If you're a client listening to this and you're like, oh, I didn't realize the coaches will help me with this, like, just send us a message and we will help you with this. If Carly, Danny, or me can't answer after our first event, like, Trevor and Corey are in the group, or we'll just literally let Corey log in and talk to you. We had him do that with one of our clients before, who was like, we need a whole race strategy, and we hopped and helped you. So if you have any questions at any point in time about the Lyss Method, training with us, all that stuff, just shoot us a DM at the Lyss Method page, or an email at the hello@thelystmethod.com, and we'll get you in touch with whoever one of us we need to like put you in touch with. So that's our TLM plug. But of course, like, we're here, we're the coaches, we're proud of what we do. And despite me being super hard on myself for no reason, and all of us being just as guilty as charged as you, catastrophizing our own fitness and training, we are just regular people training for these things like you too. And I think Corey said it best, where he said average athletes above average people, and that's kind of the ethos we're trying to embody with TLM this year. So this will come out, I'm trying to get this out Friday. If you're listening to this and you're going to be at DC, Atlanta, or New York, we're going to have meetups. So plan for that. We're really excited. The DC meetup is just going to be at the Compass Coffee that's directly next to the event center. Trevor's racing and we don't know his time, so I'm waiting to get the official announcement of that. But we wanted to keep it really simple. We didn't want to do a shakeout run on Friday where all the coaches were coming in late and then have everyone feel rushed, or like you have to run before you rush to get dinner or anything like that. So we're just going to kind of since all the clients racing or that said they were interested in coming were women, we're going to get coffee in the morning and then go cheer Trevor on. That's going to be our plan. And then I'll be there with Trevor cheering on Carly and Danny, and then everyone else. And I know a few of you left some great questions on Instagram about things like warming up on race day, strategy, all that stuff that we didn't get to. But Luke, my videographer, is coming to the race, and we're going to vlog this whole weekend, all that stuff. And this is my shameless plug that if you're watching on YouTube or you're on the podcast and you love this content that we're putting out, please, it means so much to me if you subscribe to my YouTube, you physically like the videos, you comment and engage, you share them. I know it seems trivial, but like we're in the world of engagement, and that really helps us with a lot of stuff. And again, thank you to Noble for sponsoring our team. The no bullshit mentality aligns so much with what we do with Lyss Method. You know, we train hard, we're regular people, but you know, we do hard things because that's what we do, right? And that is so much in alignment with what we believe in. So really, really appreciative of that. And then otherwise, if you guys are racing, training, have questions for future videos, podcast, whatever that is, let us know in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram or something like that, and we'll cover it in future episodes. So thank you guys for listening to us yap for 2 hours about HYROX strategy. We'll recap when we're back.
See you guys. I'll let
Bye,
you know how
Trevor.
this goes.
Bye. Good luck.
You guys.